So here on, well, on A Lot of Help with James Lott Jr., it's kind of a crossover episode with my In Between the Pages of James Lott Jr. It's a bunch of stuff because this book and this person crosses many different lines. On this show, I talk about all kinds of health, mental, physical, spiritual health. This kind of covers all of that. This is a book that I read. It came across my desk, and I was like, this is a very serious read. But I did feel hope in there also. The person I'm talking to is a disabled U.S. veteran, Navy veteran. So thank you for your service, of course, sir. But he's an advocate, especially. So I'll make sure I get this right. He's a veteran support advocate. He's also a public and motivational speaker. He's a life coach, business consultant. He's also was considered a seasoned holy man and spiritual advisor. So he's a person out there to help. I think this book is very useful for people who may have gone through something similar in experience or who haven't gone through the experience and are curious but some lives are like. The book is called 2,442 Steps to Crazy, the Beginning. And from the opening page, I was like, I was in. I was in. And you read it. There are times I had to put the book down, pick it back up, put it down, put it back up. But I got through it, and I did feel a sense of hope. And now that he's sitting in front of me, I feel a good sense of hope. D Paul Fleming, he's the author. Hi, how you doing?
Good, James. Great to be here.
Yes, like I said, seeing you sitting in front of me after reading this book does give me hope, actually. And is that what was one of the? So we're going to get into the book and everything, what it's about. But what were some of the possible outcomes you're hoping from people reading this book?
Yeah, I didn't put any pre-qualifications on it. It took me a long time to finally sit down and write this story, and I have a deep faith in something a hell of a lot bigger than any of us, and that faith is what drove me to tell the story. And then once the book was out, other people's thoughts and feedback and input kind of crafted the mission, if you will, to get people to talk about their trauma in life. For me, once I finally wrote the story, it was a tremendous relief, that I felt putting it out there. It was a secret. It was a secret up until I published the book. And then once I told my story, I found that saying those words and encouraging others to tell their story is the purpose behind writing the story.
Yeah, we're gonna go into the story, but there's two things and questions I do want to ask, and because there are probably common questions that people are thinking when you write an autobiography. One, how difficult was it, or not difficult was it, to relive these stories? I always say you live them anyway; they're inside of you all the time anyway. But was it any more difficult to get them out of you?
Yeah, it was brutal. It was brutal. I had to remember things that I worked for, over 5 decades to bury. And I didn't want to remember them. I didn't want to flesh them out. So it was brutal. It was brutal reliving the story. But then once it was out, you know, it's an amazing weight off of me.
Mm-hmm. And now that it's out, the other question would be: so were you afraid or worried or concerned of people looking at you differently?
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
oh yeah, oh
Yes.
yeah. Especially my wife. And
Okay.
yeah, right. Because my wife didn't know any of this, anything. She didn't know any of this. Nobody knew anything in that book until I published it, including my wife. And and when I handed her the finished copy, um, no, that was the first time she read it, and you know, so. But on the positive side, there's been nothing but it's been all good. It's been
Yeah.
all good.
Yeah. And I've seen the praise online, so it has been really good. I mean, it's a really good book, first of all. So they'll go into the mechanics a little bit. Have you ever written anything before? Have you
No,
ever written a book? If this is your friend, is your friend? Because I'm like,
no,
I'll write a book. But like you said,
no,
you wrote it's a good book. You wrote a book. I mean, how was that?
James. James, if you would have told me, you know, up to a year or two ago that I was going to be an author, I would have been the one laughing the hardest. I mean, barely get out of high school. Okay, and English. I mean, come on. If it wasn't for what is it, Google Spell? Okay, that book might have been. I might have written it in Russian. Okay, because you'd have never gotten a syllable out of it, right?
Yes.
So again, I there was no way on God's green earth I was becoming an author. Okay, just no way.
That's hilarious. And God got you through it. Obviously, got you writing. And I think that's also a lesson for people out there too. I like that. Anybody, if you really are meant to get something out there on print, you'll write it, or you'll figure it out, and that's what you figured it out. And you write. And there are things out there like spell check and stuff where you can help you out. And friends, smarter friends, all that kind of stuff
Right.
out there that can help you out. So that's good. That's good.
Right.
That is very good. And what was your discipline in terms? Because you are, former Navy. Did you use a certain discipline to write, or was it just up in the air? Just when you felt like writing, you wrote?
No, as you see in the book, I didn't really learn how to read until, about 15, 18 years ago. I was as close to as illiterate as it gets. So my discipline in the Navy was interior communications. I was fixing phones and doing those kind of things, but I never really made it into my division. I was doing all kinds of other stuff, driving a nuclear powered submarine, doing fire control and mess cranking and deck division and doing a lot of maintenance stuff.
Wow, that's very cool, and that's very important stuff too, actually. So tell people. Okay, so I tell them we have this book here. Well, how do you describe the book to people?
So that's crazy because I try not to. All
Okay.
right. I try not to describe it. If I had to pick a favorite part, it's the chapter about Coach Perfect, because to me, it is to this day one of the most inspiring chapters in my life, and it set a tone for never quitting, for pushing forward. It's kind of like you take all the ingredients that you find in the walk of life, and it takes 4 or 5 different trials before you make the right batch that says, okay, so I'm not quitting, or I now have the ability to take this step and do it with confidence. So that, to me, it would be Coach Perfect as the best chapter, but I've tried not to define the book. I'm just too close to it. I'm too deep in the soup, so to speak.
So, folks at home, I mean, it's about cruelty and pain, physical and mental, family brokenness. It's and this man here, this young boy first into manhood, navigating your way through it, surviving it, also, and trying to make a life for yourself. That's kind of how I look at the book. It was like it's somebody's journey, from boyhood to manhood to kind of get to manhood, so to speak. Like you had to swim through a lot of stuff. I was gonna start on a cuss, but so you had to swim through a lot of stuff to get there. And that's what I felt. It felt like when I was reading it, it was like almost like a marathon. So I was just like reading it, like seeing this thing popped in front of you. You had to handle that. This thing popped away. Yeah, that's is that kind of that sound like something about the book? Like that's how I felt about the book.
Yeah, no matter what happened, something else jumped in front of me and tried to, you know, tried to either kill me or
Yes.
put me in a way that would take me down a path that you can't recover from. You know, like I like to say, it was like learning how to swim up a waterfall.
That's a great analogy. That is your book. Yeah, that's a great analogy, very much, which is very hard to do, obviously. That's like to swim up a waterfall.
Well,
Um,
well, salmon can do it, so I figured, what the hell, I can do it.
yeah. They do swim street. That's right, 70 swim street. Um, the fact, just on a side note, because of this, how did you find laughter? Like true laughter. Like how did you find that?
So you'll see a little touch in the book about an uncle, not an uncle that I had, that was a distance from the home life, and he was a funny man. And I used to enjoy the comic relief and watching him from a very, very young age, as far back as I can remember. He was always happy. He was always cracking jokes, and he could be very serious. He was that side to him as well. But that's where I said, I like what he's doing, and it not only made me feel happy, but it made others around me happy. So that was where I started where I decided to bring humor into not just my life, but as a cornerstone of what I am.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. No. Yeah. You have a great smile. When you smile, you have a great smile. It's like it's a great smile. I mean, I'm a
I'm a
serious.
good-looking man, James. I'm a good-looking man. Okay. My
Yes, you
wife's been with
are.
me for 50 years. Okay.
you,
You gotta have
you
some
look pretty.
goodness here.
You do look pretty good for your age, as they say. But
104. I'm
I always
104.
say I'm 110, but yes, I understand. I always understand. We're hanging for the old guys. We're hanging in there. That's funny, but no, it's not. But because this book has such heavy stuff in it, and some, like I said, and some hope also. People think, well, how is he? Because people who are reading it, going through where they're going through, they're thinking, I want to laugh like that again. I want to get to a point of laughter, and it's like you're showing people it is possible to be able to get there and have laughter. After years, you said you were pressing everything down. So you're another example of you don't know what someone's life is like by just looking at them, right?
Be careful. You
Yeah,
have no idea the person inside of the person you're staring at, in good ways and in bad, right?
yeah, right.
So yeah, I've had a lot of people use that example where they said, we never knew what was behind those eyes, you know. And again, I never said anything, so
So what do you? So and you, when we talk about the book, there's so many things that have happened to you in there. What? How? How do I ask this question? What do you feel is possibly the lowest or the worst part when you look back at the book in your life?
it was the fear of the unknown.
Mm,
It was the fear of what's going to happen next. And the crazy part is I don't remember fearing death. It was the physical abuse, but those always healed. It was the mental abuse, the verbal abuse, the you're gonna be nothing. And that never ending hatred that boiled out of this stepfather. Okay. That was brutal. That's the one that now when I hear sounds or tones, that panic still jumps to the forefront of my skin, and I'll start sweating, and I can feel a panic attack coming. Not so much with physical. Somebody threatens me physically, it's like, yeah, whatever, whatever, right? But the verbal one, that's where it really kind of touches your emotions and pulls you back into that mental scene of what you survived.
yeah. What are your thoughts about your mother?
Well, I've had a lot of people ask me, is she still alive? And she is.
Oh, she is.
She is. She's
Okay.
she's uh,
Okay.
she's still around. Honestly, I tried to write this book after her passing, but she's still around. Okay,
I mean,
so
laugh, but yes, I mean, you can't
right,
wait. You can't keep waiting. Yeah.
right.
Yeah.
So, um, you know, I guess I'd say it like this: what's behind her eyes? Because I've heard some stories of
Okay.
her childhood. Okay, I was around, the her mother and that insanity. Okay, and I witnessed, the fact that she was alienated from her aunts and uncles and treated like I don't know the right word, right?
Yeah.
Treated, she certainly wasn't treated like a relative or treated with respect or any of that. She was treated as you know, as a, as a, a street person, what's the right word? I'm
Uh,
not sure, but she was never treated as as an equal or somebody that they valued. All right. So in my effort to write the story, I also tried to be fair to where she was coming from. On the other hand, Crazy, the stepfather, he was such pure evil. I could never find a way to say or write anything close to neutral, let alone positive. But when you can get around a person that you just know is evil, that was him. So now you got to look at it and say, well, how the hell did my mother stick with this lunatic, for forever, right?
yeah,
How? With all that abuse and so on and so on.
yeah,
And, the answer to that question is not my calling. It's
right.
not my place. It's not my station.
Nope.
Okay. My job is to figure out me and try to move forward, right? Keep the faith, keep moving forward, right? That's my job. So I desperately tried to be neutral with regards to my mother, all right? And look, when all said and done, everybody answers to God.
Yeah.
He's got a pretty good idea what's going to happen.
Yeah, I like that. It's a tough line because I know for me in my recovery, my father and that stuff was much more pronounced. It was like everything was just like it was very kind of cut and dry, like you just said. It's like he did this, this was the results. It was very open. But you think the mother, part of me was trying to protect her on some level all these years and not really and go, well. And then I didn't really start looking at her on some level. But I realized, well, that's her story, that's her journey. She may be having turmoil inside of her. Who knows what's going on with her? But I know for me, I'll tell my truth. If it includes parts of her, that's what's gonna then I'll mention it. But I looked at her a little differently. It took me a while to get to her because he was so big in my presence in my life. So I get that. I feel like you're saying something similar. It's just kind of like you were dealing with crazy. That's what you were dealing with in this whole thing. She was kind of a byproduct also, so to speak. I mean, she was like a byproduct, and that's whatever she's feeling. That's her autobiography to put out there. But you have to tell your truth, right? You have
Right,
to say if she's part of some of these stories, you got to tell her as part of the story, right?
right. And to kind of caveat that, James, I, I had the hell kicked out of me. As my wife said, she goes, "You weren't brutalized, you were terrorized." And it didn't really click with me until she said that. Really, I was terrorized. Shit, look at
Yes,
that. That was
were.
I was
Yes,
doing what the Navy SEALs were doing when I was in a onesie, right? Right.
right.
But then I look at it and I say, well, standing next to me was my mother who had black eyes and swollen and gashes and bruises and thrown across the room. So it was important for me to take that into consideration when I was telling the story because it would be so easy to blame her.
Right.
So easy,
Oh, easy.
right?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, how do you blame a victim,
Right.
right? So again, when people ask me about my mother, you know, I tried, this is probably the most in depth I've gotten into it with you, James. So James is getting an exclusive on my feelings towards. There you go, right?
Love it. I love it.
So, it's a complicated question, but I think what I just kind of laid out there is fair.
I think it is too. Well, here's another question for you, and if you can't answer it yet, I understand. Have you forgiven your mother and your stepdad?
No. So let me give you the more complicated answer.
Please tell me, please.
On my mother's side, yes, I've forgiven her with my head, my upper chest, but not all of my heart.
Got it.
Okay.
I
I
like that.
know the right thing is to forgive. And I'm desperately trying to get there. I want to get there, but there's a chunk inside of me that just won't let go.
Yeah.
As for crazy, listen, if I was standing in the Vatican and the Pope himself said, I need you to forgive him, okay, I'm going to look at the Pope and say, no, okay, not happening. All
Yes.
right. I can't. I mean, I know that spiritually I have I
Yeah.
have done everything I can to let go,
Yeah.
but there is so much pain tucked deep inside of me
Yeah.
that it's that I struggle every day, right?
Yeah.
And part of that pain, you know, I don't know the right words, but
Yeah.
I can't just let it go. So the book is book one in a series. Maybe by the time maybe by the time we put them in the ground, maybe I'll get there, right?
Maybe, right. No, that's one of the most honest answers I've ever had on the show. I love that. No, thank you for sharing that. That's one of the most honest
Thank
answers.
you.
I like that. But I want to ask you something again. So you're so back in the day, and I did too. We held everything down, and I was taught, all those phrases, be a man, men don't do this, men don't have feeling, just walk it off, that kind of stuff. Until I talked about it later. So how did you meet your wife and actually have a relationship with what you grew up and saw? That's what I'm kind of curious about. And she didn't know anything. Of course, I mean, different if she knew what was going on in your past, but she didn't know anything. So somehow you were good at not letting her know anything. But how did you have this like successful relationship with her, coming from where you came from?
Well, it starts with the fact that my wife is a saint.
Okay, there you
Okay.
go.
And there's no doubt in my mind that the baby Jesus sent her to me to manage what is it, two thirds of my life?
Oh, yeah, right.
Three,
This, yeah,
three
yeah.
quarter, 80% of my life. Is that where we are now? Right.
Like, somebody told
Um,
me that.
I don't know if there's another woman on the planet um, that could have walked life with me. Okay. And we had 6 kids. We now have 9 or 10 grandchildren. All right. The woman is to me, she's a saint. Now, is she really a saint? To me, she is. Okay.
And
You
she
know,
is.
how,
She is.
how did she, how did she, how did she handle me? Okay. I, I don't know. I don't know. Love. Now, in book two,
Okay.
okay, which is called One Step Away from Crazy,
Well, I like that. Okay.
right? You'll start seeing where Terry and I first met. So
Okay.
I'll give you a sneak preview.
Okay. Good. Yes.
Okay.
Okay. Yes.
Well, as I said, you got to give you a sneak peek into book two.
Yes.
Right. But to do that, I've got to say that I'm a deeply spiritual guy, and I believe that what you hear in your ear is the big man upstairs kind of keeping you in line, guiding you the right way.
I agree.
So, so roughly my junior year of high school, I'm trudging across the snowy field, literally, okay, and I'm heading to this foster family that took me in, and I keep hearing this thing that says, "Go to the game, go to the game, go to the game," and I'm like, "Go to the game, going to the," and wouldn't leave me alone, so I banked a right, went back towards the high school, went in, and there's a women's basketball game, the high school basketball game going on. Now it's $2 to get in or whatever it was. I didn't have any money, and if I did, I wasn't paying for it. Well, one of the teachers just comes, "Come on, go on in." I'm like, "All right."
Okay.
So I'm telling you, James, I go in there and I was freezing, and I'm still wrapped up, and everybody else is already hot, and I'm freezing. I'm sitting there and I'm watching this girl, and I'm watching her. She's got this energy about her, and she's gritting her teeth, and she's got the freckles and the black hair and the white skin. I mean, she's as Irish Catholic as you're ever gonna find, right? And man, this one girl reached for the ball and she damn near broke her arm keeping that ball protected. And I'm like, man, this girl, huh? And
Uh,
then I got a good look at her and I said, wow, man, she's got some good stuff bouncing here. Okay, I'm liking this girl. All right. So I'm
yeah.
sitting there, and I've got this warm and fuzzy that just kind of flowed through me, and then it walked away. But it was
Right.
there for 2, 3, 4 minutes, and I was searching. I was like, where did that come from? And I want it back, but it left. So I leave, and I'm walking back to this foster family, and I'm thinking, what the hell are you doing here? What are you? Patience, patience. patience 4 times.
Okay.
Patience. Remember we started earlier?
Yeah.
Patience?
Yeah, no.
Okay. Guess I would have, wish I would have learned a little earlier. Okay. Now here's the crazy part. I'm going to tip off the third book.
Okay. I love it. I love it.
I was at both her weddings. The first one was when I was a senior, and I was invited to her wedding. James, hand to God, I'm sitting in the pews and I'm watching her walk down the aisle in a white dress, and I looked up and said, how the fuck is this supposed to work? You told me. Okay. Now I'm getting re-mad at the baby Jesus, right? Okay. He's walking down the aisle, getting married. Okay. 6 years later, here we are. We got married 6 years later. She had 2 kids. We connected, had 4 cents. It's been that way for, as I love to say, 50 years.
Okay.
Absolutely true.
Definitely, I want to read each of your books. And you'll have to come back for each book. I'm just gonna have to. I'm gonna read your books. I have to come back for each book. I mean, this is fascinating. I'm ready. I'm totally fascinated.
So let me jump in there. When people read the book and they say, "Well, where's the hope?" Okay, you don't have to wait for the next book. Read between the lines.
That's what I did.
There's hope in there on every page because you can't beat me, and I won't quit.
So I was like, "Yep, I agree with you." When I said it earlier, I saw hope in the book. I think the part is I know some people are literal. I think they probably just read it and go, God, he's just being beaten down all the time. Like they probably look at that and go, no, but the point is he's writing about it, which means he survived. That's the hope, right? The book is here. This isn't a posthumous book. It isn't a biography by somebody else. The man wrote it, and he's still here. That's why I saw hope. I go, the fact that you got it on the page, the fact that you had, excuse my language, the balls to actually, because men, we're not taught to be introspective and to reveal our feelings about stuff. We're taught to just be quiet and take it like a man and just keep it moving. But there's so many broken people out there and broken men out there because they've done that. You're an example of breaking that, and you're also a man still. There's still a man, whatever that means, right? And you look like a man to me, like a man, you know what I mean? Like you're a man, but you're telling a story about stuff that tried to break you, but you survived. And you're saying, you're saying it, so to speak, I'm deciding not to let it continue to break me. That's correct. That's what I got out of that.
That's beautifully said, James. That's beautifully said.
Yeah, because that's the whole point, right?
Yes. So one of the books I have drafted, I've got the first chapter written, is called Warrior to Wise Men. Once I started realizing the magnitude of what you just got done laying out there, okay, it is incumbent upon all of us warriors to use that warrior mentality coupled with all of our knowledge and put back the wisdom. Okay. And doing that, I'm telling everybody the same thing. Listen, it's okay to be a warrior and it's okay to tell your story. Okay. It doesn't make you less of a man or less of a warrior by telling the next generations or the generations to your left and right. Yeah, it's okay to talk about these things because if you don't, my fellow warriors, the suicide rate among veterans is going to skyrocket from roughly 40, 50 a day now to what? 200
I believe
in 5 years or 10 years. So that's part of the mission behind what I'm trying to do, especially in the veteran community, but certainly not exclusive to the veteran community.
My stepdad just passed earlier this year. He was a Navy veteran himself. He passed unexpectedly, and so we're a Navy family, but we're also a armed forces family. Like we have people from armed forces, so I support. I always say veterans should have everything they want. Anybody who's a veteran, I say just give it to them. Whatever they need, mental health care, food, shelter, whatever. I'm like, I'm just a strong component of that. I'm just like, I didn't do it myself, but anybody else who did, you should have whatever you need. I feel like we should pay that back to you guys. I've always been very vocal about that. And I love what you're doing. I think it's this is also paying it forward. It's also saying, okay, if you're a veteran and you're going through a tough time, come talk to me, read my book, come to me, or just whatever you need. I feel like that's what you're doing. We follow each other online. I see your stuff online, and that's very much you. You're like, it doesn't matter what your background is, doesn't matter what it is going on, but if you are a veteran, period, and you're having a hard time, then you're all brothers and sisters. It doesn't matter what. It doesn't matter. It's like I'm so tired of this dividedness that's happening so much, and I'm like, I'm trying to bring people together too. Just like there's some things it just doesn't matter what it is under certain umbrellas. I agree. I don't know if you agree with that. I agree with that completely. I just think it doesn't matter.
I hear you, James. It's beautifully said.
I think it's really important. I mean, I can continue talking to you forever. I got other interviews to do, of course. I'd rather cancel them and just continue talking to you.
Well, I'm happy to come on another follow-up one if you want to put together another list of questions.
Okay. Well,
as my wife says, you can't shut them up. So,
seriously, I think I actually might do that. Actually, we'll talk after. I think I actually might do that. But your other books, when they come out, I do want to read them and have you back on. Also, you are doing God's work, and I love it. And I think you've always been very kind to me online, and we've talked in emails, and that shows what kind of person you are from where you came from, which tells people you don't have to be who you came from. You can be a nice, fully formed human being in life, no matter where you came from. That you're an example of that, my friend.
Thank you. It's very kind.
My pleasure. The book is 2042 Steps to Crazy in the Beginning. D Paul Fleming. Run and get it. So they can also go to you have on blackhawkbooks.com, of course. Do you have a website too? Anything you want to promote? Go ahead and promote that, please. Anything you want to promote?
Yeah, so blackhawkbooks.com is the website behind the book and the books that are coming out. If you want to connect with me directly, D Paul Fleming I'm on Facebook and on Twitter. I've got some other social sites, but I don't spend a lot of time on them. Facebook is where I do most of the action, right? And Twitter.
He's on there.
Or you can send me an email if you need some help. Any veterans out there that need help, and you need somebody to listen. That's one of the things I kind of wanted to make a point of. One of the things that I'm trying to express to people, especially with veterans, when a veteran is telling his story, just listen. Yes. He's not looking for you to critique. He's not looking for you to tell him what to do or her what to do. Okay. They just want to be heard. They don't really want an answer. Okay. They just want to be heard. So that's where my wife has been so phenomenal for 50 years. She was and is the greatest listener on God's planet. Right. So that's really where it's come from me, where I'm saying to people when I ask them, you tell your story, you want to be heard? It's like, no, I just want to get it out of me. Okay. So if you run into a spot where you need somebody to talk to and you can't find anybody, reach out. You can email me at dpaul@blackhawkbooks.com or reach out to James. He knows how to get a hold of me.
I do. And I'll put everything in the description so you guys can make it easy for you guys. But I agree with everything you say. I agree with. And sometimes it's good to talk to somebody who's been through it or something similar. It's like, sometimes it's better that way. Just have somebody who's similar.
If you've had a father or mother beat the bloody crap out of you, okay, and you don't think you can tell somebody your story, call me.
Yeah.
Okay. I guarantee you people like myself and James are happy to listen.
We are. No, we are. Yeah, very much. I'm alotofhelp.com. That's 2 T's. Thanks for watching the show. It's on all streaming service platforms you can think of. I'm everywhere you want to be, of course, or not want to be. I just joined Blue Sky Social, I guess, or Spill, or something. I don't know. I'm on some things. I'm like him. I'm mostly on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. I mean, I don't do everything, but I'm on other stuff too, I guess, because the young folks told me I should do it. So I followed my grandchildren. They said, "You do this, Papa JB." I'm like, "Sure, okay, I'll do it." So I'm on a lot of stuff. Just look for James Lott Jr. everywhere, and we'll see you next time.